And yes, people, so today we are in London, which I'm pretty gassed about. We're back with the boys, and it's a bit of a freestyle podcast session. So we got Boyan back on the podcast and Kian. These boys are 7-figure agency owners. They're young, they're crushing it, which is pretty dope. But the value in this should be pretty cool. So I advise to stay and listen. I would appreciate a like and subscribe. That would be dope so we can keep doing these. But these boys are working with like 8-figure brands, even 9-figure brands, which is pretty dope. So we want to get into how to scale brands to 10 million per year, e-commerce, dropshipping, whatever, because they've got their fingers in multiple pies, because they understand the market probably better than most people because they're working with multiple brands. Let's get into it. So who are you, bro, and what do you do?
As you guys might have seen in the other podcast I did with Nathan back when we were in Bali together, I've been doing email and SMS retention marketing for e-commerce brands for just about 5 years now at this point. And yeah, in terms of like client revenue, we've done over $60 million for brands. I think last time Nathan used like 50 on the thumbnail and title. It's been over 60 for a while. I think we just rounded it down. So yeah, happy to share some insights on this pod, and yeah, passing it.
Nice to meet you guys. Kian, been dropshipping or used to dropship for around 4 to 5 years. Did around close to 5 million in revenue, and then transitioned into a PPC, so pay per click, Google advertising agency. We manage around 100 million in revenue per year amongst different brands we work with, mainly specializing in, top of funnel.
So yeah, these boys, like they said, they're managing quite a lot of revenue for their agencies, which is pretty nuts at a pretty young age. So how old did you say you were?
I'm 24.
24, which is pretty young, I would say. And then you're
22.
Yeah, so proper young, which in the game, I feel like in e-commerce now, there's so many people who are young, crushing it. Like you said you had people who are like 17, 18.
Right,
crushing it with dropshipping brands, right?
Yeah, I mean, we even have some 17-year-olds that are doing like 20 to 50K in revenue a day, right? A lot of them are more EU focused. So I'm sure you know like the dropshipping EU method, etc. So yeah, I think there's a lot of young guys in the game. There's definitely a distinguishable notice between younger and older players in the game. What do you think about that, boy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, we have a few 16 to like 20-year-old clients that are slightly new, and you can tell in terms of like they're a bit more reactive to like metrics or whatever. So if something like one of their ad account gets shut down, they're like immediately maybe trying to, rather than waiting for the appeal to go through, they're like setting up backups, which is actually like really good because it shows that they have a bias towards action. But sometimes like that could lead to overcorrections in ad accounts. And
I have a good question. So a lot of people watching this, they'll be like, you 24-year-old, 22-year-old, how you boys are capping out your ass. Like, to these, like legit though, most people think you're lying. Would they not?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So from my side, like one thing you've got to realize is I don't necessarily look at age to define, whether someone's lying or not, right? Like I look at experience. So how long have you actually been in the game for? Someone might have started at 22, they might turn 28, but you could also have the equivalence of experience depending on when you start. So I did start when I was very, very young. I think with agency, one of the main leverages I had was, of course, a lot of guys that watch like an Imran Ghazi video and they're like, hey, I want to create an agency. And they base it from that. The fact that I was in ecom before allowed me to understand like, hey, what are these brands looking for? Like I understand the importance of like ROAS and spend. Like how can we scale? What can we do here? What can we do there? So I guess, yeah, I'd like to answer it shortly. It does come down to the amount of experience you have. So I look less at age and more so experience. But having said that, like I know people who have been in the game for 2 years, right? And it's like they've been in the game for like 6 to 8, which is nuts. So it's experience and like how locked in are you really?
Yeah, fair. How long you been in the game for?
5 years. So I started when I was 20. Bro, you say we're young, but honestly, you're 2 years older. I don't think it's that
when
deep,
did you start?
honestly.
Around 4 to 5 years ago. Well, you say you've been in the game for 8 years, but
How many years were you trying?
Yeah.
Full time, like actually working for 4 years now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like,
the equivalent.
because a lot of
So I was at
people say,
university.
yeah, I've been trying for many like long time, but like, have they been trying? So yeah, I mean, I think my story is a bit different. I never did dropshipping. I started off in the ad space because for e-commerce brands because I was just broke and I was like, I didn't have any capital to do e-commerce. So I was like, all right, cool. I could probably sell ad retainers. And then, the first brand we did, we 4x'd them in like 10 months. They were very small. So the benefit of that was I got kind of lucky, I guess, with the type of client. They were crushing on Amazon. And I basically sold them. I was like, listen, you tell me that your goal is to exit, having diversified channels of sales, you're going to get a higher multiple. And you should just trust me to run your ads, essentially, which, looking back, it was a good decision for him, great decision for me. But, that could have gone left in so many ways if I didn't know how to actually scale. But, I'm like a relatively intelligent guy, so I picked things up fairly fast.
I think the mad thing is, like, generally, the best way to start is, like, you don't even know what to do, right?
Yeah, bro, like, I was so clueless. Like, as soon as I closed them, I was like, well, I got to figure it out. Otherwise, like...
A lot of people spend, like, X amount of time. It's like information paralysis, right? So they'll spend so long, oh, this needs to be perfect. When the fact of the matter is, it's never going to be perfect the first time you start something. You're going to make mistakes, but I think making those mistakes are what kind of, one, makes or breaks you, and two, defines you. If you don't make those mistakes, how do you know what to do this right and what's to do this wrong? So, like, one of the biggest things I see when someone's starting is they don't bite the bullet, right? It's either that or they'll just be making excuses like, oh, I can't, I've got university, or like, I've got to do this, or I've got to do that, you know what I mean? So...
Did you go to uni?
No, so I was going to go. I'm not too sure if anyone knows Portsmouth Uni. I was going to go to Portsmouth University, but never ended up going. So
Portsmouth can't be fun.
No. So I got into uni, but I had really bad grades. Like, I'm not really a school system type of person. So I was going to go to Portsmouth. And at the time I was like, look, I don't want to go to university. I know I want to work. Like, all I want to do is work. So it was like, I applied, I got accepted, I had my placement year there, and I basically was like, nah, I'm not going to do this. And that's the same time that, so my cousin used to sell like fake Ralph Lauren tops on Facebook ads, right? And he was putting in like 5, and it was like crazy. It was on like a 10, 100x. I don't even know what it was at the time. I can't remember, so long ago. Then I was like, oh, what's this concept? So, like, he's putting money into Facebook ads and he's getting an ROI. Like, what's that about? And then I kind of YouTubed it, went down the Reddit rabbit holes. Then I found out about dropshipping and I was like psycho over it. I went crazy. Yeah. Like, every single day I'd have set routine, wake up at this time, do this, do that. I wouldn't stop for like a year straight. And the next thing you know, I feel like when you're so locked in, it blinks by so fast. Like, it feels like a week is a day, a month is a week. You know what I mean?
So do you know what's actually quite jokes? I don't know how far you were into your agency journey, Boyan, but when I first started my dropshipping brand, I think I was doing like 30K a month. Bro, I was looking for email agency guys. I obviously YouTubed him and he's all over it, plastered it. Booked a call with him. He was trying to close me. And then I obviously met him in Bali 3.5 years later. I was like, mate, are you Boyan?
So that was the first time you guys met again?
Yeah, bro, it's crazy. So just to give you guys a bit of context on that, right? So I run one of the largest like email marketing, retention marketing channels on YouTube. The largest, not one of the largest. And it's very niche, I just basically teach what I do for free so that like high value brands come and just be like, okay, I trust this guy, let's work with him. And obviously Nathan was in my funnel at some point, and then yeah, it was crazy. I had no idea.
It was so jokes, because I remember I was sitting in my mate's garage. He owns a garage, and I was like scaling this brand. I had no idea about ecom. I was like, oh, I didn't have an email set up. Called Boyan, and I was like, mate, this guy's so professional. I remember thinking you were so much older than me, like professional in the game. He was like, yeah, I'm living in London, like I'm crushing it. We've got so many brands crushing it right now. I was like, this guy's sick. And then, yeah, we were just at a restaurant in Bali. And I was like, mate, you're that twat who was on the call, weren't you? And it's funny moment, little full circle moment. So let's get into the e-com side of it now. How are you basically seeing brands scale in 2024? Because obviously things are changing like all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the biggest things I've noticed this year is there's a lot like competition gets a lot more intense really quickly. So because of all of these different like ad spy tools and all of this stuff, if you find like a new winning product, it gets like the competition just becomes really intense really quickly, because all of these ad spy tools, people are ripping your pages, ripping your ads, ripping literally everything, like the entire brand, right? And if you were to, let's say, sell product A and then 5 more competitors rip your ads and just like do everything the same as you, that market gets saturated very, very quickly. And also you're essentially bidding for the same audiences. So the upside to that is your audience, I would say, becomes like product aware a lot faster compared to before. Meaning that if you're selling like a solution for a problem that was relatively untapped into, or like a product that the market doesn't see very often, so for example, like the hydro bottles, right? Like that wasn't really a trend, but then like hydrogen water. So when that trend hit, immediately, you know, like with the brand that that you work with, right? There's now like 4 or 5 replica brands, right?
So I mean, when we started off with that brand from like Google, and this is like a different scenario, right? Because this is almost like a trend-based brand. What we saw is such a spike in search volume because the brand went viral. We ended up doing in top of funnel like 2 mil for them in the last, basically. So we started working with them in Jan. So right now we're on like between 2.4 to 2.6. But within the first like 4 months, we were able to do like 2Ms for them, which was nuts.
That's crazy.
That's like one way to scale though, right?
Google or Facebook?
That was just Google solely, right? So of course they have like the branded search setup, etc. But on Google, we define it as like brand, and you have non-brand, right? So brand is anything, you know, I'm sure everyone is familiar with like Triple Well, for example. You know, branded search is basically just for MER purposes, if that makes sense. So media efficiency ratio. When you're looking at top of funnel on Google, what we tend to define as like non-brand is first click customers. So a customer who hasn't been at the awareness stage of the brand, where they might have seen their ad on Facebook, or they might have seen their ad on Pinterest or wherever, right? We're looking purely at like top of funnel. We did manage to scale them a lot. And that just relatively comes down to the amount of search volume that brand had, right? But I mean, to get back to the point, the way that like we're seeing a lot of brands scale is mainly like omni-channel presence is super, super powerful. Like brands aren't looking to achieve like a 5x on Facebook or 4x on Facebook, right? They're really looking to see what can we do to set up omni-channel to almost create an ecosystem between all the channels to scale.
Yeah. So going back to that point of competitors and saturation, how do you mitigate that?
Yeah, but also product differentiation, I would say, because like if you've been in the game for a little bit of time, you should have a decent relationship with your supplier. Like a lot of the times now, it's basically a competition on speed. So getting tight with your suppliers, I would say, is like a really, really big thing. Because for example, if your supplier is tight with you, they would be able to front the capital on, let's say, the first order, or give you lower MOQs, or work harder even to source the next variation of the product, because they trust that you'll be able to pump volume for them, right? So relationships is super important. And then also there's a lot of people that's able to scale to like 250, 350, even 500 sometimes, like really, really quickly. And it's always on products that like you wouldn't necessarily expect it straight off the gate. And the issue with that is, again, not like beginner dropshippers, because we work with some guys that have just recently popped off. And the biggest difference is whenever there's a problem, like for example, payment processing and all of this stuff, they don't necessarily have the connections in order to solve that problem immediately, which is why we like are pretty good agency partners, because essentially whatever problem they really have, we always have a guy for, just because we've been in the space for so long.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing about agency, which is good, is obviously network. Like the amount of clients you have and I have, it helps a lot, because if one client has a problem, you can just provide the solution to that very, very quickly. Like you said, whether it's payment processing or whether it's ad account bans or agency accounts, you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's so true, actually.
So there's a lot of stuff on the infrastructure side that prevents brands from scaling as well. So, you know, tight relationships with suppliers, the right legal structures also, like don't get fucked on VAT, for example. So having the right entities in place, that's pretty important. And then also, you know, it's actually not too hard, if I'm being real, like to pop a store to like 250, 300, but to stay there is
I would
quite
say
difficult.
100K a month, super easy.
Yeah, I mean, getting from 100 to 250, I feel like you can do that with the same systems. I feel like the kind of differentiator we see with brands that are scaling past like 500K per month is creative systems. Because Facebook is a lot more broad these days, right? So do you have a creative director? What's your video editors looking like? How many creatives can you pump per week? What I see is like the more creatives, given you have, you know, proof of concept with the angle and concept and everything you're doing, and you're still like continuously working to find new angles, is pumping in creatives really helps, you know, from a Facebook ad perspective. Because as you guys know, like Facebook tends to be the bulk of revenue for a lot of brands. It really helps Facebook create kind of an internal ecosystem. So for instance, let's say you have ad 1, ad 2, and ad 3. Maybe that particular customer isn't going to purchase until they've seen all 3 ads in a certain order. But the algorithm understands that a lot. So we're really, really seeing brands are able to push past certain levels of revenue based on how good their creatives are and based on how good their creative systems
I have
are.
a question. So obviously I'm starting a fashion brand. It's launching. We just had our best day yesterday. It's obviously still pretty low, but we're going steady. Is fashion super saturated?
Depends. You could say anything is saturated, but what vertical are you coming in
how do
on?
you, because I'm seeing it as I'm going to scale break even to just get the bid, to get my ads on top of, so I want to acquire revenue and customers. That's like my goal right now, because it's not about the profits. Is that, would you say that's a way to enter the market?
No, I mean, personally, I'm always a fan of making profit front end, just because you don't really know, number one, how long is the brand's gonna last. And this whole like, a lot of founders go in with the LTV mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna get returning customers and that kind of stuff. But the issue is, and I see this particularly in supplements brands, it's like, oh yeah, we need to put people on subscription. But the problem is they don't necessarily understand the churn rate. So what ends up happening is that they're scaling into the red because their CAC is below break even. Yeah. And just because they just, fingers crossed, like, you know, they're going to stay on subscription. But the problem is, if you primarily have, let's say, a dropshipping audience, think about it like this, right? You order a product from any website, it takes like 15 days to come. Odds are you're not going to buy from them again, right? Even if it works well, you're probably going to look on Amazon to see if there's any alternatives, etc., right? So playing a LTV game is not necessarily the best way to go about it. The biggest thing for you is essentially, because you're in the fashion space, your average order, you're competing against stores with very high average order values. It's one of those spaces where like, yeah, just AOV varies so widely. So the ones at the top can generally spend obviously way more because they just have a high average order value, right? So essentially you need to figure out a way to raise your average order value, and whether it be bundling or whatever, to a point where you can actually compete with the big boys, or the big boys. But like,
yeah, that was a good
yeah, like until you can actually compete with them, or you differentiate your products in a way where it kind of tackles it from a different angle. So for example, last year, shapewear was a really big category.
Yeah, it's massive. It's
right?
massive.
But this year, it's like if you try to launch a shapewear brand, it's going to be much more difficult compared to last year. So, but that was basically a slightly different take on fashion, right? So yeah, like introducing some utility. I think Kian also has like a lot of valuable insights here.
Yeah. So, I mean, bipolar to your opinion, I think you can run a brand on break even. What we typically see a lot of brands do that are running on break even in the initial phases is A/B testing, split testing offers to understand, you know, what offer is going to give you, you know, the highest conversion rate, highest AOV. There are ways you can, you know, mitigate being at break even. For instance, we typically see brands start with a low AOV and then work out how can we incrementally increase it over time through, you know, getting your conversion rate up, having a better offer, having a better landing page. But, you know, if let's say you're at break even, you're getting 50 sales a day, you still have that proof of concept. There's somewhere in the funnel which is breaking. It's just as simple as identifying, hey, where in the funnel is breaking? Is it the ads? Is it the creatives? Is it the landing page? Is it the offer? Identifying that, whatever niche you're in, if you're in the beauty niche, skincare niche, health niche, clothing niche, right? Identifying what's breaking in the funnel and putting that as a focus point for your brand is really how you can get out of break even and start scaling. It's as simple as that.
But that's kind of that's the difference between reinvesting, because when what you're talking about is like there's something that works in that funnel. It's just that you're testing, let's say, a losing variation. Yeah. But now, for the audience, I feel like it could be quite useful to understand your framework and identifying where in the funnel is the breakage, right? Because the funnel is like, you know, multiple steps. Yeah. So what do you look for, either in like an auditing process or just like?
I mean, it depends. Like relatively, it could come down to, there's so many different components, right? There's maybe if you're running Facebook, your CTR is low. Maybe if it's your product, you would identify that through conversion rate. Literally looking at the basic numbers, understanding those is the first gauge point. For instance, if you have a 0.5% CTR, you know you need to come in with a different angle. If your conversion rate is low, you know you need to fix that. It's less, in 2024, in my opinion, I'm seeing less technicality, you know, besides from Google, because Google's just a different beast. But as I said, like for Facebook, it's more like working out what's going wrong, fixing that from the outside instead of going in. Like, bro, we have people scaling on Facebook with 2 campaigns, CBO, Advantage Plus. They're spending like 10, 15, 20K a day. Really, it just comes down to having a good product, good angle, good offer, and good creatives. It's 4 simple things, right?
So at the moment, I'm pretty much micro ordering like custom products, and I'm going to micro test all of them until something bangs, and then start ordering big bulk. That's pretty much what I'm doing right now with the fashion brand. But yeah, it's a slower game ordering stock.
Yeah, bro. Are you waiting for it to land in the UK and then distribute
So I'm
all
fulfilling,
US?
ordering stock, but fulfilling from China, bro. 6 days shipping to UK. And,
What?
But bro, cheap as fuck. There's literally no point having a fulfillment center because what they've got warehouses in the USA as well. So we're selling to the USA. So all the returns can go to the USA, and we ship them out from there anyway.
What I would say about fashion brands is, we've run some very like notable fashion brands. Some that even like celebrities are ordering from, etc. The one thing which screws over fashion brands is stock management, because you're managing so many different SKUs. And if you're ordering stock, for instance, we had a guy who ordered a bunch of too many basically summer shorts. What that resulted in is he basically lost all his finances, and the brand was on verge of collapse because he didn't have the funds to order what the demand was or where the demand was.
Yeah.
So
I heard about it. Sorry. Went
don't name drop, but
yeah.
You know when you said looking at like, for example, if the CTR is wrong, trying to
Sure.
improve that and that kind of stuff. I know for emails, for example, I have a decision tree on, okay, let's say I get presented with an account. I know my order in which to do things because from like a diagnosis process,
Got it.
there's always things that you focus on like at the top.
Yeah.
Because you identify the fault. So for example, it could be conversion rates are low.
Sure.
Right? Where do you start from there?
Well, I mean, it's quite simple. You got the products, you got the offer, you got the conversion rate, creative, and then you got the ads as well. So you would analyze all 5 of those, then distinguish what's going wrong, pick that apart, optimize it, and then you could run a split test to see, hey, okay, let's say it's the creatives inside of Facebook have a low CTR. What are you doing to improve that? But for instance, let's say it is the creatives. You could then relatively determine from the CTR that the angle, there's no demand for that specific angle. And then it might be, hey, you need to re-angle, you need to do this, or you need to do that. It's quite a hard question to answer because it varies based on brand. And I feel like it's one of those things where you just know. Do you know what I mean?
So where would you put the urgency in the pillars? So you've got product, creative, offer, and website. Where would you order them in like most important?
Yeah.
No, but in like
Google
front
ads,
in like front
2K
end,
plus 5%.
in like front end, obviously you got media buying as well, but front end, like the key fundamental pillars.
It's hard to say.
I would say websites one of the lower ends. If you've got a good creative and product, doesn't even matter if you got a shit website.
I would probably put product as number 1 because some products, bro, it's just fucking hard to scale to like past 100K a month.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say product's number 1.
And then product's number 1, and then I think offer and website is basically this, like they kind of go in hand.
Yeah, but do you feel the product's more important, or the offer, or the angle? Because you can have a shit product, but you can angle it appropriately, and because of that, you can do X amount in revenue.
Well, to be honest, I would say a lot of products are shit, but they've just got a good angle.
So then is products more important or angle more important?
No, product is more important for longevity. If you're trying to like pop a store to like $1 million a month really quick, then it's just angle, sure. But if you want to find longevity of a store, you need to make sure number 1, for example, like the market is big enough, right, to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Because for example, the Swiss stuff, right, the market is like just tiny, so it's not really possible to maintain.
Good one. Like, what do you think of BlendJet? One SKU really, like, how are they? Because they're like an 8-figure brand, like crushing it. I don't really get how it works.
What was
I think
the
it's just a first mover, you know, because they were one of the first. So they built. So if you're the first to pop a product and do it well, then you have that brand authority in that specific niche. Because now, you know, like there's BlendJet replicas on Amazon for 20 quid.
A brand like BlendJet, for example, they would probably have a whole team delegated to brand protection. Like for us on Google, we have some brands that sell certain products, and what happens is dupes come in and, you know, people start selling on Amazon and eBay. You need to consider like how are you leveraging paid media to protect your brand, right? So let's say you're running a brand and, you know, you've got a brand name and people are searching in that brand name. What happens if an Amazon dupe is showing up on Google Shopping for like $5? So it's like, you really got to consider when you get past that mil mark, like how are you protecting what you have? Because it does get to a stage where loads of copycats come in and it's hard to maintain, you know?
How do you advise your clients for brand protection? Because I know how we do it.
Yeah, from a Google side, of course, you have the DMCAing and you've got kind of that
that's
stuff.
kind of long though.
Yeah, I mean, if you know the right people, you are able to DMCA. Like we have some brands which have like whole DMCA teams. For Google side of stuff, we typically, you know, so there's something called search impression share and something called auction insights. So we can see what percentage of the time is there an overlap in impressions that are being served for another brand for your branded search. So for instance, let's say BlendJet, there's a competitor, for example, called Blendy. Maybe Blendy is showing up 20% of the time whenever someone searches for BlendJet. So that's when brand protection comes into play. And that might be like, hey, we need to bid more for our brand. So you show up top of page. So you're protecting your brand, right? Brand protection is interesting. There's also SEO. There's a lot of different things. Getting a patent on the product is very, very important. Although that is quite costly. It's not necessarily viable for all brands to get a patent, if you know what I mean. But it's collectively, what are you doing to also position your brand as like the number one in the space? You can't just really get to a more month and maintain it unless you have a sense of authority. And that's just by differentiating out even like packaging, product variations, right? Showing that you're an innovator in the space is very, very important to make sure that you're maintaining a certain level of scale.
Yeah, completely agree, honestly. So one tactical thing, I guess, you guys probably like just implement. I think I've told you this before. It's basically, right, with dropshipping, competitors and copycats are just like inevitable.
Yeah.
Right. So what I tell my clients to do on the meta side is run a CBO, $10 a day, duplicate every one of your like 0 ROAS creatives in there, right? And just dump it in there.
Yeah.
And then dump it all into one ad set, duplicate that one ad set 10 times. Because you're spending $10 a day, but the thing is you get it to show up on your ads library. So what this will make your brand look like is running 1,000 ads or whatever. But in reality, you're maybe only running 10 winners.
Very
so
sneaky.
Actually it just buries your winners. So anyone that comes in, they can copy your product page, they can copy your product, sure. But they end up running a bunch of fucked up angles on the ad side. Because a lot of the time they just like, you know, download the ad and then just run it, right? So they're going to lose maybe 3 to 5 grand and then realize, oh, fuck, I can't really make this product work, onto the next. So that's like a pretty sneaky thing that I get some of my clients to do.
How easy would you think it is to enter the game? Because obviously I've got a network, like we coach people as well. Like the success rate is good, but I think you need a bit more money these days.
Yeah, I think like, how much would you say is to test a store, like to build it up and
It depends what route you're going down. If you want to drop ship, you could go to the EU markets, saves you money, getting capital from there. You know, like we've had guys in the past where they'll just rip something which is working in US. Because if you really think about it, first of all, the product starts in China. Then from China, it goes to US. From US, it goes to Big Five. Then it goes to EU. So what a lot of guys are doing is catching that product when it goes to US, taking it straight to the EU, duplicating everything, duplicating the offer, and you're just printing money.
I think that's a smart route, actually. A lot of people do that. So basically make a bag in the EU, because EU dropshipping is easy, man. It's a lot easier.
Bro, we have like, sorry to cut you off, but we've literally got guys who have employees which are just specializing in finding these products in the US, and the employees will just duplicate the site one for one. Is it moral?
Do I know them?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, I think once you've made that bag from the EU market, you can put it into a USA.
Look, if you guys, I feel like if someone's kind of not struggling for cash, but as in like if someone's is prioritizing cash flow, EU is definitely the way. But I think if you're building for exit value, US, because like US, the thing is with acquisitions and like M&A in general, you need to find a market with the right buyers as well. So US is a lot more hot on the private equity side. Yeah, so like short-term cash grab, bro, EU is like the most brain dead shit ever.
It's ridiculous.
I'll give you a ChatGPT hack, right? So for translation, so normally we use one translating platform. I'll tell you guys in the end. And then we basically feed it into another. We feed it into you bastard. DeepL. It's not that deep. But we feed it into another one of the GPT engines. So basically, because you know how Google Translate and stuff, it doesn't sound very organic, right? So once it spits that out, we tell the another engine, like pretend you're a native copywriter for this, and then just rewrite it in a how you would normally speak, and that gets the accuracy across.
Say Gemini is better than ChatGPT for copy.
I actually haven't used Gemini.
That's pretty good.
Or I think my team probably has, but personally, no. I stick to GPT for personal reasons, but I don't do any copywriting for the agency anymore. So
So what are you boys implementing on brands at the moment?
So typically what we do, it depends. Let's say they have Google Ads set up. We basically provide a full audit, going through everything A to Z, seeing, what's working, what's not working, what they're doing good, what they're doing bad. You'll be surprised. You have some brands doing like 250K a month, 300K a month that don't even have tracking in place for like Google Ads. So we'll really break down the ad account, and then we decide, hey, do we want to sledgehammer this, i.e. knock down everything and start from scratch, or do you want to build off what they have, right? But it's important to identify how much room has this brand got to scale on Google? Because I feel in the agency space, the most important thing is you set a realistic expectation for your client. So let's say a client is spending $600 a day. Let's say one little thing I do, I'm not too sure if you do it. Let's say I know I can get that account to like 3.5K daily ad spend on a healthy ROAS. I'll always tell the client, hey, I think we can get to 2.8K in daily ad spend on like a 3X. Because I don't want to tell them something, even if I'm very confident in it, and then what happens if there's X issue or the ad account gets banned? You know what it's like, right? What happens if something bad happens? So I always tell them maybe 20 to 30% less than what I think we can do. And then, we basically over exceed expectations there. And I think it just comes back to expectation setting.
I think so. Yeah, expectations is honestly probably the biggest part when it comes to retaining clients, because it's basically like me saying, hey, Nathan, I can help you do this. And if I meet this, and then I tell you next time I'm going to help you do this, and I meet it again, over time, you just compound that trust. Yeah. So I don't necessarily lower it, but how I position it is, let's say I think an account can get to like 55% in total revenue from emails. I might say something like, look, we based on our experience in your niche and like just, my insights into the account, honestly, I think we can get it to 50 to 55%.
Got it.
But that could also have a margin of error, right? But I cannot see us going below 40.
Okay.
That is a guarantee, And then that's like, so because the thing is, right, I like having my clients see me as like an oracle almost, of like a predictor of what's going to happen next. So I don't want to overshoot and underestimate to that, underquote to them.
Do you think emails are more predictable?
Oh, 100. Because like, there's been times where like, I remember we were in Cape Town, you're like, bro, I can scale this account 10K days in ad spend. Yeah. Give me 2 weeks. And then like 2 weeks later, it's like, so it's chilling at 6K,
You didn't have to say that, but yeah. Dickhead.
But yeah, no, I mean, with ads, there's delays, there's ad bans, rejections. So a lot of the time it's not necessarily in your control.
I mean, one thing I will say is I genuinely wholeheartedly believe we are the best team at Google Ads, right? Like I've never seen, and this comes back to like a lot of people starting off in agency. Of course, you're an anomaly in that respect. I've never seen anyone really learn how to squeeze every penny out of the ad account. Like when we run ads, we go ruthless, right? So we get given a ROAS criteria, both for brand and non-brand. We work out like, what can we do to scale that brand for every penny it's got, basically. So if it's going to take us 5 times more work and we can spend $200 extra a day, we're going to do it. Because, I think that's really how we've built the agency, based on levels of scale that we've been able to achieve. Like, for instance, the water bottle example, we took them from 0 to 2Ms in 4 months. That's not really something someone would typically do. Like a typical agency would go, hey, how can we automate this? Or how can we do that? Or like we really, really focus on like a more personalized level for each and every single one of our clients, which, yes, it's more work for us, but I honestly believe like that's how we've built the agency, through being able to provide a tailored service, accommodated to kind of everyone's needs.
How would a break even of 1.3 be for like non-brand campaigns on Google?
So the thing about Google is Facebook and Google are very different, right? So Facebook is more door-to-door knocking. So imagine you're going up to someone's door and you're like, hey, do you want to buy this product? Hey, do you want to buy this product? It's interruption marketing, right? When it comes to Google, the way that we would define it is a search intention-based platform. Someone's at the awareness stage, the buying intention stage, where they already product aware. They already know what they want to buy, in most cases, right? They could be searching for a problem and you provide the solution, which is something different. But to keep terms simple, they're at the awareness stage where they know what they want. The buying intention is high. So, let's say someone is searching for, I don't know, circular desk lamp, right? It's very, very specific. So the difference is with Google and Facebook is with Google, you can always increase the ROAS over time. Facebook, I feel like the ROAS goes down over X amount of time. Yeah. So
obviously we got an e-commerce audience, but I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and I think it's really relevant to life, and it's pretty key skill, which is communication. It's a domain which is relatable. It's for everything. If you're good at communication, you can be good at a lot of things. So how has communication and relationships played a key role in scaling your businesses at such a young age?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'll speak on relationships first, because like obviously we have a relationship.
Very fruitful one as well.
Yeah, very fruitful. It's been good. But yeah, like I think from a relationship standpoint, if you come into engagements with, number one, like genuine intention, but also you understand that like if you want to build long term with someone, it has to be a win-win. It can't just be like one-sided, because I think the reason why we partnered as opposed to a lot of other people wanting to partner with us is because like from day one we were reciprocating each other's like leads, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then that really compounded the trust there. Because a lot of the time, you know, we both experienced this. We hop on an agent, we'll send leads, and then we give them one, and then like.
So I think like having a partnership where you can provide just as much value as the other person works really, really well. I think like authenticity knows when they see authenticity. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, one, how much value are you reciprocating? And two, how authentic are you? Because, you know, if someone's ingenuine, you can tell just based on how they talk, who they are. It's really easy to vet how much experience someone has in the game if you're in the game.
Because we've met some characters, right? In Bali.
When you first met me, did you think I was
well,
lying?
Here's the thing. I knew you before I even met you, because when I first started my journey, I was seeing you on YouTube, XYZ. So yes, like I knew you were authentic just because of how long I've been in the game, and obviously you have mutual friends and everything of the sorts.
That's one thing I look at. If I know legit people follow you on Instagram,
I
know you're legit, bro.
The Instagram following for networking is such a hack, bro.
It's so legit.
How do I vet people? It's literally just like, okay, who follows you?
Yeah, because if someone legit follows you, like, yeah, he's legit.
Yeah, 100%.
So true.
What about from a client-facing standpoint?
Yeah.
No, here's a good question, because again, it plays into everything. Sales. How do you do sales? Because I would say you boys are natural salesmen. I'm guessing you never bought a sales course.
No,
neither have I. Like I've done sales as well.
Bro.
How can you give a perspective that you've got for someone else to like take on board for being good in sales?
100%. I mean, I think like technically I'm not a very good salesperson anymore. I'm a bit out of practice. I think it's like for sales, honestly, we have a really good service. So now I actually don't need to do a lot of the selling, because, for example, right, I didn't really outreach until maybe 2-3 weeks ago, when I hired an agency to do like cold outbound for us, because I know like, you know, long term it just can't be just my face selling, you know, like that's fucked. But I remember 3-4 weeks ago I sent one cold DM, because I basically saw this guy started making YouTube videos. He was like, oh yeah, I got to 300k a month dropshipping, and I was like, this could be a client. So I literally just found his Instagram, DM'd him. And then before I sent the DM, I saw his following list, right? He followed literally all of my like clients that were like e-com influencers, you know? And I was like, oh, I work with this, and this, and these two guys as well, who I also saw, you know. 20 minutes later, he was like, yeah, let's do a call. I was like, I mean, are you free now? Because it was a Sunday, right? I was doing fuck all anyways. And then, he paid like maybe 45 minutes later. So
easy. Yeah.
So with closing and sales advice, there's not really like a tactic or like a technique that you could really say. Because like if you're selling to 7- and 8-figure brand owners, there's no way to, I don't know, like beat around the bush with them. It's more just like, okay, here's how I believe that I can add value. Do you think it's going to work? Yes. All right, great. Do you feel like we're the right person to implement this for you? Or do you think like in-house is better? Obviously, we can put our best foot forward in terms of making an argument on why working with us is more beneficial, let's say. But at the end of the day, it's a very logical decision. It's very much just like, yes, we're the right person. Now, with the services that we sell, email and Google ads, there's a lot of awareness, you know, like everyone knows that they need those two services. So it's, and you know, when they come to us, it's more of the problem aware as well. Like for him, it's like, you know, I want to scale my spend more. For them, they look at my service as like, okay, well, you know, my email performance is probably not up to scratch.
Yeah.
So for us, actually, at this point, sales is a lot easier because it's more of a just a case of determining if we're the right person to work with them. Just like how, 2 years ago, I had to really try hard to close you.
But you were out of my budget, to be fair, at that point, because I don't think my brand was big enough.
No, I mean, actually, no, 30K a month for 2K is not bad.
Do you know what the mad thing is, though? Like, if I knew what, obviously this is cliche as fuck, but if I knew what I knew now, back when I was doing 30K a month, bro, I could triple revenue so much faster.
100%.
Because, like, I hired a media buyer and we were doing 100K a month and he pretty much did 400K a month, like 2 months later.
Wow, that's quite
Just
good.
through Facebook, yeah, and it's ridiculous. But, like, obviously there's credit behind that as well, but, like, knowledge cap and limitations. Do some of your clients have limitations as well?
Well, here's the thing. I feel like a lot of clients come to us because they know they have knowledge limitation, right? So it's like these people consciously realize like, hey, we need a whole team to do this for us. We're not the experts in this area. So we want someone else to focus on that certain region while we focus on growing the business. So there's two types of business owners. Someone who's in the business constantly and someone who understands, the right chess moves to make to grow the business outside of the business.
That's so important. Like, I've met a few people recently and they were like, oh, I want to be a solo businessman and manage this whole business myself. I'm like, what? You can't do everything yourself. It's impossible.
It's very Asian mindset, honestly.
Yeah.
I think the more east you go, like Europe, for example, they're way more skeptical. They want to keep things in-house. And then like Middle East especially, it's not that they want to keep things in-house, but it's kind of weird. Like the business culture, I feel like here is like, you take pride in doing everything yourself, but that's like, I just
from my
don't really
experience,
get it.
I'd say like you need to know at least 20% of each thing.
Yeah.
At least. And then you can sort of hire for it.
Or just know enough to not get grifted.
Yeah.
And then you're fine. Like now, for example, I was speaking to Adam, who's like my COO. Literally 2 days ago, I was like, the biggest difference with with my two execs, one on the CRO side and one on the email side, and I was like, the biggest difference, I suppose, like I've noticed in me now versus this time last year is I only think in terms of who can I hire. I don't think in terms of what can I do anymore.
I think that's the key, bro.
Yeah, because
like at the start though, you have to be in the business so you understand what's going on, as you said. Knowing at least 20-30% of everything in your business. Over time, as the business grows, like people have massive plateaus because they look at it as a baby, like they're attached to it, right? Like you have to always be there, but ultimately the goal is disattaching yourself from the business whilst letting that business grow itself. That's also how you get the highest valuation.
So like I've got a prime example. So we've just joined a gym and the owner came up to us in the gym and was like, you can't film in here because they basically love bodybuilding. This is a gym to work hard and you got to train as hard as you can in this gym. No videos, no photography. I was like, you can't do videography. It's like the sickest gym. But that's because they train in there all the time. They want it their domain. But it's such a bad business move. You're getting free promotion.
Yeah, but also like the most valuable people you can have as influencers in your gym.
But that's them being attached to the business because they want it as like their domain.
Two types of people, right? It's two types of people, I guess. But yeah.
So yeah, we'll end it on a final question. And that question would be, if you were to start an e-commerce brand right now, what would you do?
What would we sell?
Because you might have a brand you want to sell. Yeah, what would you sell? What would you do?
We're thinking about starting to flip brands with each other actually at the moment. So
yeah, get into that. Why do you want to flip brands?
So, I mean, the market's just a lot more hot for it at the moment. Like based, of course, we see a lot of clients, we work with a lot of clients. What I've observed is more clients are able to sell brands faster. Like go back 2, 3, 4 years.
Not a thing.
Wasn't a thing. Like you couldn't really sell brands, but valuation we're seeing on brands these days is nuts. But I would really analyze if we're talking an e-com brand, not like a dropship store. I think honestly, dropshipping is fairly easy. It's just, you know what I mean? When looking at a brand, I would first of all analyze how can we get the highest valuation possible? For example, we have a client.
Yeah, like what niche? You're thinking about J.
I'm thinking about J. Yeah. So the niche, for instance, if you're in the health niche and you can somehow associate the health sector
with like health tech, biotech,
right,
whatever.
Yeah. Then you could obviously get a higher multiplier in the brand.
Like
so
what?
Can't say, but yeah.
But basically
10x.
Well, no more.
No,
it's like
for an e-com
22.
Yeah. But so basically it's like, what are we like? I think because I think this is a bit more removed from beginners. How you guys can interpret this is like, you need to always understand the variable you're optimizing towards. So for example, if we're going into flip brands, we're not going to go start like, I don't know, a makeup line or something.
Yeah,
We're
although
gonna
it could
figure-
work though.
Yeah,
It's
it
just-
would work. It's
yeah.
just, we would figure out like, okay, what, for example, in the market right now, the buyers for D2C brands, what type of niche do they want, right? Because our demographic is not the end customer anymore. It's the acquirers, right? Because we could basically make any niche work. That's not really the issue. It's about who wants to actually buy at what valuations and that kind of stuff. So yeah, going back to what we would do, I mean, our route is basically, we would just partner, because I have the like back end, he's got the front end.
We got top of funnel side
Yeah,
of stuff.
top
so-
of funnel, and then like CRO, emails, and then yeah, and we both have a decent eye for products. So it's basically just a case of not even like how would we find a winning product, because we can find it in any niche. It's just like,
because I was chatting to you boys earlier about it, because you were debating, would you start a brand or would you buy one? I would say, if you bought a brand doing like 100K a month, that was like really profitable, and you're like, these guys don't know what they're doing, we could buy them out, you could 5x their revenue and like triple the valuation in a year.
I mean, it depends. Like for me, there's no point in buying a brand, because like, if we were to buy a brand, the brand would be doing 200, 300, 400 a month, when I think it's very easy to get to that stage. Like 200, 300, 400K a month is fairly easy to
I
get
would say
to.
starting a brand's harder than you think, though, especially if it's stock based.
well, no, we probably wouldn't do the stock based approach right away, would you?
No. Like,
Or we
the goal
could
at
use the
start would
supplier
be-
method that we have with E.
Could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically, long story short, the
Depends on what the end objective is, really.
I think the biggest thing for me why buying a brand would like make a bit more sense is that means that that brand has been sold once. So unlike cars, for example, where the more it exchanges hands, the less valuable the car gets, essentially. With brands, if you show that there's been an acquisition history, like for example, we wouldn't overpay for a brand, but if we pay market rate for, let's say, this brand at this multiple, then next time it's going to show the buyer that, hey, like this brand is sellable, because we bought it. But
Yeah, but you got to be able to sell the brand with opportunity. Like, no one's going to buy. That's the other thing as well.
it's easy to sell opportunity, bro, because like we also know how to grow it. So because the thing is, right, the biggest thing when it comes to selling is like being able to justify why you're selling as a business owner. And we can justify it. It's like our goal initially was just to
buy and
buy this
sell.
brand and then pop it to like and sell for 3 to 10 mil valuation. We never had a vision. We don't have passion for this brand. This is literally just like another one in the pipeline. We sell good deals, etc.
So the equity firm's whole business model is going in and buying a brand for a low value.
Bro, it's massive.
Yeah, like 1x EBITDA.
I spoke to a few equity buyers when I was selling my business. It's big in Amazon as well. So they have like Amazon and all these Amazon equity firms. They all want to switch to buying Shopify.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what they're all saying to me. These
What's the
firms-
benefit?
Amazon's super competitive, bro, and it's competitive on price. And also,
I feel like you're more restricted
Yeah,
with
and-
Amazon.
if your product's popping off, Amazon can take it. and
Yeah,
they
that's
can-
true. One of my
yeah.
clients was doing 10Ms a year with this one singular product. They changed a regulation in his state, and it meant that like he can't really sell that product specification anymore. So he took it off proactively, hoping that Amazon would essentially kill his competition, because he just figured that Amazon would do that. Amazon didn't. So he literally lost 10Ms a year in revenue like this.
Is that H?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, do you work with them now?
Yeah. We've been working with them for a long time.
And it's doing
yeah,
well?
everything is doing good. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
because he gives you a cap, right? So he doesn't actually want you to scale that high.
yeah, so with him, obviously his break-even ROAS is a lot different. So we need to achieve a minimum of 5x.
Huh?
Yes, because it's just the nature of his business and his margins.
I guess because he's
So-
fulfilled through Amazon. So
Yeah, I mean, we run him at a much lower scale. We're still very, very profitable because, of course, we're spending less, but the ROI is higher. Bro, we have some brands where they want us to run on a 5x ROAS on top of funnel. And, I mean, we make it work. The only disadvantage is, of course, if you actually did the math in ratio to how much we would be able to spend if we were at 2.5x, assuming you have like a normal break-even ROAS of like 1.2, 1.4, etc., we could be doing a lot more in revenue. But some brands are more focused on the front end net profit and, you know, percentage they're taking home, which is fair enough, right?
Yeah, sweet. All right. So if you could give one bit of advice, life advice, mentality advice for someone starting off, what would it be?
Okay, stick with it. Don't give up. Because first of all, right, there's too many dickheads entering the space.
There's
They
loads.
test 3 different products and they're like, womp womp, you know, they leave. So as long as you don't take that mindset, you could guarantee to make it,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like I don't know a single dropshipper that's been dropshipping seriously for 2 years and not had like a 300K a month.
I mean, when I started, my mindset was like, I knew, like I had 0 in the bank, but I knew it was going to work. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, I didn't even have 1% doubt
Yeah, me
that
too.
it
That's
wasn't going to
crazy.
work. Like it was
I
1,000%
0%
conviction.
doubt as well.
Yeah, because I was looking at all these guys online. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm at least as smart as this guy.
I think that's
you
the
know?
biggest
Like, it
thing,
was-
like making sure you're 100% positive. If you have that 1% doubt, don't do it.
Honestly,
because
my thought process, why would I work 150 hours per month to make $2,000 a month?
you'd be surprised that it doesn't necessarily motivate a lot of people. Because I used to do coaching when I was on like 44 podcasts. I had a bunch of people come to me. I was like, so why do you want to do this? They were like, oh, because I want to quit my job.
Yeah, that's a shit
2 months
reason.
later, they've just given up and they've stopped and they're just like, nah. Like, so I was like, bro, I thought you wanted to quit your job. But, you know, I feel like you really have to have strong conviction.
And
You really need to
motivation.
know what you
What
want and
motivated you?
motivation. I had a lot of personal things going on at the time. So I was
Yeah,
very,
what sort of vibe?
so I wasn't with my family at the time. And, you know, I had certain things happen in the past and I was just angry.
And you were just like, I'm going to fucking smash it.
domestics.
I was just kind of like, hey, I'm going to make sure I do. You can't. I was just like, hey, I'm going to do anything I can to make sure I prove to myself who I am. Because I felt like I lost myself as a person. And, you know, I watched the famous speaker called Jim Rohn. And, you know, money isn't everything. But at the start, of course, you focus on how much can you earn. And I think money is a good way to determine progress. Because if you increase, of course, you're making progress. So I wanted to prove to myself I was making progress in life. And that's kind of how my outlook was at the time. It's definitely changed now, but in the beginning,
Yeah, it's
that's
what you
it
need
was.
something like that in the beginning though. What
Yeah.
about you?
So basically, we were immigrants. I grew up really poor. And honestly, as a kid,
Like actually poor though? Like
Uh,
semi-poor?
I mean, okay, we always had food on the table.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
for example, heating was like
Yeah.
a bit of a struggle, you know what I mean? Like in winters. So we shared, like I didn't have my bedroom until I was like 13. But basically, we lived on top of a chicken shop in Slough. And there was these like
Slough.
yeah, you could, you know,
Yeah.
it's poverty, you know,
Yeah.
like, but anyway, so the chicken shop downstairs had like fryers, right? So to save money on electric in the winter, we wouldn't have any of the heaters on. And obviously my parents had to work, so I was left at home by myself. And there was a warm patch on the floor right under right above the fryers. So I would just sit there and watch anime on my laptop, like on the floor, because it was warm, you know? So shit like that, like those types of memories are really great.
What, the anime?
No, like just, but being able to look back on, you know, because at the time, honestly, I was a very happy kid. I was very
Yeah,
content with what I had and everything. Because you know,
So
when you're
what
a kid,
made you not content though? Like one day did you just wake up like, look, I want to earn more money?
it wasn't even one day, bro.
Because
It
like you
was
can
just,
have a bad background but still not be motivated.
So I was doing like I was doing an internship for a week and at Facebook before it became Meta in like 2020. And I was in the lift and I was doing comp sci with AI. So I was a bit of a nerd, right? So I was listening to these guys chat who worked at Facebook at the time. And I was like, bro, this is the driest conversation. And then I realized, fuck, I don't want to be hanging around with these guys. And then I realized if I graduate, what was waiting for me? Like a 45K a year job at one of these, like, you know, like in JP, Goldman, whatever. That would have been the direction I would have went. And I'm just like, I'm not giving up my life for 45K a year. Are you dumb? Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but as in, like, because I was like, I grew up like this. I can't just progress to live like that. That's a terrible story for my life.
So here's a question. Do you think you can still grow in the corporate world? Because like,
Yeah,
in my opinion,
absolutely,
you can.
bro.
So,
Because Adam's going to be a millionaire.
yeah, got it.
I'm going to, my COO, he's going to be a millionaire.
Yeah,
And
but
like,
that's different. That's different. That's called, that's like, I would say he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's different.
not really, but like, I would say he's just a COO. But imagine, right? By the time he's a millionaire, guess what? We're corporate. So you can grow within a corporate, but it's
Yeah,
more
but
about
let's say I'm talking in the sense of, hey, you go graduate uni, you go
Yeah.
into JP Morgan, or you get into a law firm.
those types of corporates.
Yes.
Yeah, that's completely different.
It's mainly about where you progress past. Like, what if you use it as a stepping stone? Yes, you can. But like, I think if you want to hit tens, 20s, 100 mil type of net worths, the biggest thing is you need to pick the right boss to work for. That's the biggest thing. Because if you don't have necessarily what it takes to like really chase after it yourself, picking the right boss really, really does help. Like, for example, I spoke at an event 2 years ago. There's one guy called Ollie. He was following up with me, sending me funnels, websites he's built for me for 6 months, bro. And I was like, fine, fuck it. All right, let me give you a project to test. Boom, killed it. Gave him another project. And I was like, okay, I don't really have like a funnels thing for you now, but why don't you come be a designer for me? So his income went from like jack shit to like 1.5K a month. And now I'm paying him like 6K a month. And now I've made him COO of my CRO division because he's killing it up. Like he's just
But
dialed
what
in.
motivated you to not have a boss?
Oh, that was easy. I did a door-to-door sales thing for like 8 weeks. And I think I told you, this guy, one of the MDs of the company, I was an intern, so I was going to leave, right? So he overheard a conversation of me asking my direct report about like, oh, what do you think I should do after this after this job, etc. Like, like genuinely, because I saw this person as a leader in my life, you know, like, give me advice type of shit. And this guy overheard it and he screamed at me, bro. Like, I'm talking, we were in one room, people in the entire office heard that shit.
I would have done the same.
You bastard. But he was like, you have fucking day. If you don't want to be here, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I was 18. And you know, like a moment like that really shocks you when you're like a kid. You know what I mean? Like, so I didn't have the backbone to necessarily stand up for myself because in my head, because you know, as a kid, if you get shouted at by an adult, you're always in the wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like self-analyzing and I'm always very self-critical of myself. So I didn't realize that like you can't talk to a fucking employee like that. Is ridiculous, you know? So that experience, after that internship, I went back to uni and my heart wasn't in it anymore. Like I was like, I can't work for someone like that.
How old were you then?
I was 18, 19, 19, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then dropped out. I was 20, didn't have shit, so I just
What were you
stopped.
studying?
Computer science with AI.
Nerd.
Yeah, I know.
I wanted to say
proper,
it, but
bro.
I didn't.
Nerd.
Proper.
I did
Yeah.
engineering, to be fair.
Electrical or mechanical?
Bro, I got 2-1. I passed.
Yeah.
You dropped out?
I dropped out.
Yeah.
But
So-
bro, I was averaging 87% smoking weed 6 days a week.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Have you ever been through a phase, drugs-wise, or?
I feel like Nathan
Can't
has.
answer that
Come
question.
on, look at his eyes. Look at this
So,
guy.
man, I had the typical British upbringing. I was a skate park kid.
Yeah. Right, geezer.
So I was,
Proper
blazing.
stoner.
Nice.
I was in the game, mate. I was blazing. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. Like,
I never
you
did
could-
any hard drugs though. Never.
Okay, yeah. I was.
Neither.
Only just weed.
Yeah, so I'm from like a small country town, so it's like
Where is it?
just countryside UK, like classic countryside. Yeah, like I think there was like two brown people in our school.
Yeah.
Like legit. Proper white area, middle class. Yeah, there's nothing to do, right? So I got into all that. And then my parents actually gave me an intervention because obviously I was just smashing. I was going down the wrong path, I guess.
Really?
Yeah, I had an intervention, bro. Like full on. What did I fail? I failed A levels because I was just.
A levels is pretty difficult though. I'm
Yeah,
not
it was
gonna
super
lie.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
failed A levels because I was just out every night, skate park, drinking, partying, booze, shagging. Sometimes I'd shag if I got laid. And then I just had to have an
Like
intervention.
a Village 10, but like a London 4.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And then that was pretty much it. Intervention.
How did they sit you down? Surely it would just be straight with the belt, like.
Bro, no, it was intense. Like I can't really say this on camera, but there was a night. So that happened. That was a big game changer. I won't say all of it, but I was like smoking joints in my room and shit. And my dad, I'd just been at the skate park and my dad came back and he was like, where the fuck's the bike? And I was so blazed in my room. I was like, fuck, I don't know. I was like, I've left it at the skate park. He's like, go to the fucking skate park now. Ran up there. Obviously, it's been nicked. And at that point, pretty much nearly got kicked out. And then from there, it was pretty much
Over a
just like,
bike?
I had a very similar situation. So I did get kicked out of my house. obviously just doing all the typical teenager stuff. I moved in with my grandma, and that's really kind of what incentivized me to like, look, I don't want to live like this, because my grandma wasn't fortunate whatsoever. She lived in a council house, kind of similar situation to you, like couldn't afford much whatsoever. So I was like, look, I've seen kind of flip sides of things. I wouldn't say my family's well off, but they were middle class. Going from middle class to like lower class was a massive shock. And I was like, wow, like what's going on here? Like I can't live like this. And that really opened my perspective, almost like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've seen like both sides of things and I knew which side I wanted to be on. And then obviously just bad relationship with family just led to me wanting to like really just want to knuckle down and scale. And it was really, to me, it was like, we either do this or you do nothing and that's it for you. You know what I mean?
Was there any instances when like stark contrast that you would say between like rich versus living on the estates?
Couldn't even drink out of the tap water, for instance. And, you know, one thing I was used to doing is going and drinking out the tap water. But in my grandma's house, couldn't do that. It was like the water was very infested. There's lots of different situations. You couldn't just go down to a shop and buy what you're basically nothing. You've got zero, right? So when I started dropshipping, the only thing I had to my name was like a pair of D-squared jeans, bro. And I worked at, you know, Pepe's Chicken. I worked at Pepe's Chicken and then I sold all my D-squared jeans on Depop. And I think I managed to scrape together like 500, 600 quid. I put everything towards ads. It didn't work. And then I went back to Pepe and worked at Pepe. I just kept throwing money at ads until I found my first winning product, which was like a Thor keychain, you know, like Thor hammer kind of keychain. For some reason that popped off.
What year was this? Because this must have been ages.
2019. Yeah. And then after that, my biggest winning product, like the first big winning product, so as I say, was like a clever cutter. So it was like a 2-in-1 kitchen knife, scissors kind of thing.
That would never sell now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
not.
I mean, I don't think it would. You know, it was really funny. I had an eBay supplier at the time because I wanted to make sure that my customers kind of got their orders fast. So I went to eBay. I was fulfilling from eBay and I had a spreadsheet with all of the eBay order URLs, literally manually sitting there, typing in each order, paying out like £3. Was selling them for £9.99. And then I remember the first time I added like a variant, like, oh, buy two, save £5. And it just popped off. And I started scaling. I went and met the supplier in London. And then the guy tried to raise his price from like £3 to £5. And then I was like, damn, I'm a bit screwed here. Then obviously I just started hopping onto loads and loads of different products, really.
Do you know what I think's pretty cool is the UK e-commerce online business game is still developing. Like there's not many, but I would say there's not many big names in the UK. Like there's a few, but it's not compared to
not in the
USA.
dropshipping.
Yeah, dropshipping, e-com, agency.
Yeah. I think brand, there's definitely big names, but dropshipping space.
But
do you think that comes
like,
down to like mindset of
Yes,
English people?
I'm saying like these stories like these, they're really good for the people to hear. Because that's one thing I hear when the people are joining my group and stuff is like, oh, you were relatable. You're from the UK.
Yeah.
So like,
but also I just think like the buying culture between UK and US is like UK people are just way tighter with money.
US are designed to be entrepreneurs. Like the US sets up the country
because there's a
so
credit
people
culture.
are entrepreneurial.
There's a credit culture in the US, whereas here, like
UK people are tight,
for example,
bro.
people wait for payday. That's one thing I never was. That was one angle that actually I missed for about 2 years. Working with UK brands, I just didn't realize payday was a thing.
bank holiday sales were rip.
Yeah. Because I've never had a proper job outside of the door to door. I did a kitchen porter shift in like some meze lounge thing, and bro, I spilled a Coke on this Turkish guy, and he almost punched me.
I had loads of jobs, bro. I was worked at Domino's for 5 years as a driver.
How was it?
What?
Bro, I swear to God, yeah. From 17 to like 22, I worked at Domino's.
And then you started dropshipping.
Yeah, so I finished uni.
Crazy.
And I quit my Domino's job because I was like, mate, I'm not fucking finishing uni and working at Domino's. I look like a bum.
Yeah.
That was my ideology. So I was like, I'm quitting.
Yeah.
I had like minus 1.5k in debt, and I was like, I'm gonna start dropshipping. And then basically my brother gave me his credit card, and the first store I did worked.
That's
I didn't
good.
even like it.
That's
paid for
so
itself.
lucky, bro.
Bro, so lucky. And that was the brand I scaled over 3 years.
Because imagine if they didn't work out, you probably would have been discouraged.
But no, because it was COVID. So I said to myself, I'm making this work.
What was the product again? It was.
I can't talk because it was one I sold. The first dropshipping.
Oh, that was the one that you were gonna work with me on.
Yeah. So the first.
Oh, was that the?
Can't say the product, but yeah, the first store I ever did for dropshipping was the one I exited 3 years later. Crazy, right?
That is insane, bro. You picked really well then.
Nah, but you could say I'm lucky, but I started a jewelry brand 4 years prior while I was at uni. So I learned ecom to a degree. Probably did like 200k, bro, over 4 years. But then my mate was like, oh, yo, do you know what a burler is? You can drop ship, because the brand wasn't making me money. So I just had to keep putting money in. And I was like, okay, sweet. I know ecom, I know Facebook ads. All I need to do is do a burler and sell other people's products. So I knew what to look for. And I saw this brand popping up on ads, and they were getting loads of fucking views, and their ads were shit. And I was like, if I do custom content on this shit dropshipping brand, I'll print. And it literally, bro, instant print.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's what
sick.
I did. But yeah, it was good crack. But yeah, I think we'll wrap that up here. That was a pretty sick freestyle podcast. I appreciate it, guys. It was good having you boys on as well.
Sure.
Thank you for having us,
It's
bro.
my first time doing a video with you.
I know, it's pretty cool.
Fuck's sake, I just got a parking fine.